We ran the firm very much on socialist lines, which was the way Bill ran the firm, and that's been the ethos all the way through.
His belief was not about growing a business to sell it or make so much money that he could just go away and retire in the Bahamas or something. It was all about nurturing people and allowing them to reach their full potential.
His whole philosophy was to give young people the opportunity. Whether they took it and made the best of it, that's down to them. But they were given this opportunity.
Bill came from really quite a poor background. His mother and father were not wealthy people. His father was having a terrible time after the war because he was being victimised because he was a strong trade union person and found it very difficult to find work.
Bill's interest in building was sparked when he was just 6 years old.
There was a building site quite close to where they lived, and he used to go there regularly to help the men. He came back rather early one day, and his mother thought, "Ooh, has he been naughty?" "Oh," he said, "we've been laid off. We're buggered for bricks."
Expelled from school aged 14, Bill started his career as a chain lad.
Building and engineering was his passion. Ultimately, he did get with Sir Frederick Snow and did very nicely there and started taking his exams, all done, of course, after a day's work. But he wanted to be made a partner, and Sir Frederick didn't think he was quite ready for that, so he went somewhere else. And that was, I think, when I met him. He was, like me, small, so we fitted together rather nicely. Outward going, outward looking, fresh-faced. In 48, we got married. That was the happiest time in my life.
Despite the lack of a formal education, in 1949, Bill took a job lecturing in building and design at Brixton College.
Perhaps he felt that he wanted to get other people interested in what he was interested in. That it wasn't enough just to do the engineering. He felt he had to push others in the same direction.
Finding a love for teaching, Bill moved to Liverpool to take up a more senior position at the Liverpool College of Building.
I thought he really was a bit of a dandy because he used to stand in front of the class with his thumbs in front of his trousers like this. I reacted to him, and this is what he was looking for. He did not want students who just sat there with a blank face and just wait to be taught.
His desire to not only share knowledge, but put theory into practice led the ever-restless Bill to create new opportunities.
I think he started to want to do a little more in the consultancy way. The front room was given over to the first office, where he had 2 or 3 draftsmen.
And where better to find those draftsmen than by cherry-picking his best students?
If he's going to try and build a consultancy up, he wants to try and get the best students he can. And a lot of them that came through the ranks were all good students. They were, there's no doubt about it.
I got an interview and I had to take my dad with me to the interview. He was only really just starting up and he wasn't promising a glittering future because he didn't know what the future was. So I was his first ever T-boy.
He was looking for people who felt very much as he did about the treatment of other people and the encouragement of other people.
Bill Curtin told me what a wonderful setup he had and only took bright lads on and this kind of thing, and offered me a job. And he said to me at the time, "You better be bloody good because you're keeping somebody out of a job." a good job.
It was trust on both sides, all sides, in fact, that made the practice what it was, a successful but not brutish, shall we say, practice, so that everyone was valued.
It changed almost daily with Bill would come in and say, we've got another job, can you work the weekend? Yeah. And it just snowballed.
Now, at the age of 40, and with a healthy order book under his belt, the time was right to focus on the business full time.
I think the official start was when Bill packed in the lecture in at College of Building.
Then the practice expanded more, and so they took over another room in the house. So we were becoming just a little bit more congested, and during the holiday time he'd take on a few temps, and there was a large hall, so we had 1 or 2 things in the hall as well, so it was getting a little overcrowded.
With a growing reputation and a rapid increase in business, plus some gentle persuasion from Ella, Bill purchased the company's first office on Rodney Street.
We felt we were moving into the big league then, weren't we? Because now we weren't working from his home. We had offices, didn't we? Albeit that we only had the ground floor and the basement.
The guys were in the basement, some of the guys with the new T-Boy, and the T-Boy had rigged up this device whereby if the door opened, it broke the contact for the radio, so the radio switched off. So when Bill went down the stairs and opened the door, the radio went off. If it went out and closed the door, the radio came back on. There were things like that going on all the time.
We must have been involved in over 50 schools in this area, because there was a major school building programme then for the Catholic Church. He would let me design school buildings, the engineering. It was pretty elementary, in fairness, but we were only kids.
We would go out on site trying to tell a 40, 50-year-old bloke who's been in the trade for 30-odd years or whatever, that you're not actually doing that quite right. This is what you should be doing. And we got some expletives.
Here's Bill Curtin with all these kids running all over everywhere, causing chaos around the site.
You can't do that. We don't do that sort of thing, you know. Bill did.
Despite everyone's enthusiasm, things didn't always go to plan.
We had 2 schools, and I don't know how we managed to do this, but we forgot to detail and design the staircases. Well, the contractor wanted the drawings, didn't he? And so I remember about 3 of us, we were in Saturday and Sunday, getting all this done. We had to do it by Sunday night. It was a bit chaotic, I think, really. It was.
He always said, you don't make a bad decision. If you do, you make it right. You make it work. So he never worried about them making a wrong decision, because he knew that in the end they would get it to work and it would be all right again.
His biggest interest was encouraging their careers within the industry.
He felt that he was an underdog. He was brought up as an underdog, from an underdog family, so that he really felt for them. That's why he was so keen on supporting working class people and minority.
He made his presence felt. He was always there. I'd go into his office quite often and he'd talk to me about your aspirations and the work, and to become chartered you needed English language. So Bill says to me, write a few essays. What paper do you read? I said, don't read a paper. Get The Guardian. Read the football page on The Guardian. It'll broaden your vocab and so on. it was easier to do it than keep out of his bloody way.
And if work commitments meant Bill was, say, unable to give a technical lecture to a structural committee, he'd happily supply a willing volunteer.
Bill's reply said, unfortunately I can't make that date because I'm somewhere else, but I've spoken to John Beck and he's more than willing to stand in for me and he'll be in touch with you in the next few days. I was already committed to doing it before I knew it even existed. And I hated him. I hated him for doing that. But now I thank him, because I can now get up and talk to anybody.
Even when Curtins won its first project valued at over £1 million, Bill was happy to let others seize the opportunity.
We were offered a complete teacher training college with residential blocks, convent, chapel, the whole thing mixed. And it was in Horsforth in Leeds. I said to Bill, I want to do that. So he said, OK, you can do that.
It was this desire to give them independence that led to the opening of other offices.
I joined Curtins to get promoted, to get qualified, get chartered. Bill said, well, we're going to rule bigger offices, we'll open bigger offices and give you the opportunity to go and do things.
By the mid-70s, Bill was handing over more and more responsibility to the partners.
If we look after the business will look after us. And that was, I think, Bill's philosophy. He let go and let people have their heads and gave them encouragement and support.
Stepping back into more of a consultant's role, Bill still relished any opportunity to promote the business.
Bill would go around the office and say to the lads, what are you working on? And the lads would say, oh, I'm working on a school. You're doing a diaphragm wall. And I think Bill invented the diaphragm wall phrase. Do you realise that's probably, you're the only young engineer in the country working on diaphragm walls? So what was a boring engineering job to the lads was groundbreaking stuff as far as Bill was concerned.
And Bill decided that we needed to publicise this.
There was a structural steel designer's manual, which was the Bible of the engineering world. I think Bill's intention was that every office would have the Curtin manual for brickwork.
We were building buildings, coming up with solutions that nobody else would have dreamed of. We started writing the first book, from which numerous others followed.
They're all very well regarded in the industry. All the universities will have a copy and so on in their libraries. We would not have done that without Bill. There's no question about that. We would never have in a million years gone down that path as well.
But despite handing over the reins of the business, Bill wasn't going to stay idle.
He discovered mountains, and that's when he started taking up hill climbing and hill walking and all the rest of it, and he thoroughly enjoyed that.
I used to go walking with Bill. He'd tell you how easy it was before you did it, and then tell you how difficult it was after you'd done it and how wonderful a job you'd done. I think he did it in the engineering. I wasn't aware of him doing it in the engineering side at the time, but I'm pretty sure he was.
He put himself up for a councillor, as far as I remember. He thought that he would have a go, but he didn't get in, actually, and didn't try again. And at one stage, we had various people come down from London, including Michael Foote, to see about him being an MP.
Bill instead returned to academia, only this time as a student.
It's all to do with, I see, starting off at the very bottom and an inferiority complex. And he felt that, I'm nothing, which is, as I say, absolutely ridiculous, but there we are.
He did his thesis on diaphragm walls, post-tension walls. It was all clever stuff. It was engineering stuff.
And then he went on to do a PhD. So, he'd really, what with his consulting engineer, structural engineer, civil engineer, BSc and PhD, I mean, it was full house, wasn't it?
Completing his PhD in a breathtaking 9 months, Bill was able to spare some time to save a local landmark from demolition.
Someone came in, he was the secretary to the Victorian Society in Liverpool, looking very glum. So Bill asked him what the trouble was. He said, well, they've said that the Albert Dock's got to come down, it's a danger, it's dangerous, must be pulled down. And Bill said, what a load of rubbish, more or less, words to that effect. And I'll give you another opinion that says quite opposite, and that's what he did. Ultimately, it became really quite an attraction for Liverpool.
The Albert Dock saved, it is now the most visited multi-use attraction in the UK outside London and a catalyst for the regeneration of Liverpool's city centre. By the mid-80s, Bill had formally retired, but his legacy was in safe hands.
The ethos was that you looked after the staff. That's why we have so many staff, in my view, who have been with us, man and boy, all the way through, not moving on to other firms. Yes, of course, some did move on, but there's a lot of them who've been with the firm, man and boy.
And this philosophy was taken very much to heart by one former T-boy.
I think I was referred to as the conscience of the board table because we had to take decisions occasionally which had ramifications, and I was always the sounding block for the conscience, you know.
I've never needed to think about moving to another company or setting up my own practice because there's a brilliant foundation that we have at Curtins, so there's no need to go anywhere else because we can do whatever we need and want to do.
He wasn't the sort of person that you would expect to die, because he was only 70, you see. I mean, he was so full of life, so active, and so full of ideas and everything that probably, like me a bit, is you're left in shock, really. Can hardly believe that it's happened.
His funeral was full to overflowing. They were out in the bloody car park listening to and as I say, I couldn't have said goodbye to Bill then. I couldn't speak. He was a very special guy.
I haven't cried many times in my life, but I did at his funeral. And Ella came and held my hand.
You know, the people like Gary and Terry and Stu and so on, they would have felt it very much more because, of course, they'd known him for at least 40 years, so that they really would have missed him as a presence and a force. Yes.
And his presence continues to burn brightly at the heart of our business.
I can remember Rob giving me a picture of Curtin House as my retiring present. And he said, the fact that I'm here, the fact that you're here, we've all been encouraged to keep it going, look after it, and make sure that the next lot can do a better job.
There's nothing to stop the guy who joins next month as the new T-boy taking Rob's job in 20 years' time. And it would be a big surprise if it wasn't somebody that's already there now or is about to join.
That sentiment of wanting to develop future leaders from within our business led to our setting up of the Curtins Academy in 2014.
What we need as a business is talented individuals at the start of their career to grow with us. And that's certainly what I got from Bill. There will always be opportunities for those individuals to progress.
Initiatives such as the Curtins Academy, that was one of the reasons I joined, because I knew it had like a 4-year programme which allowed me to grow, and it's allowing graduates to be at the forefront of the business. It's built a solid foundation.
It's independent, so I like the fact that they are not big companies where you are just one number or something like that. You count.
The general values and the opportunity and the development of youth and sort of the trust in people and responsibility, I think that really shines through from what Bill started.
Bill Curtin was always passionate about his work and the industry. For nearly 60 years, we have championed that ethos as a leading consultancy, whilst nurturing and supporting our colleagues to reach their full potential.
He will still be thought of and still remembered and be an influence over people who've never met him.